The princess wondered if the Archduke was trying to calm her down with his words. Looking at Liliana, Dietrich asked if she wanted a glass of wine, to which Liliana replied that she did. Blushing with excitement, the princess thanked Winchester and drank some wine. Thinking of Dietrich, the princess reflected on the fact that he had done a lot for her. Holding the glass in her hand, Liliana said that she would do everything so that the Archduke would have no regrets. Hearing his name from the princess, the man looked at her, agreeing. When Liliana said that she was hot, Dietrich asked her again. He did not understand what it meant. Clutching a lock of hair in her hands, the princess repeated, saying that it was hot in the room, her face was burning. The princess reached out to Dietrich, bringing her face closer to his. Winchester was stunned by such actions on the part of the princess. Squeezing Dietrich's clothes, Liliana said that it was stuffy in the chambers. The girl was too close. Approaching Dietrich more closely, the heroine tried to kiss him. She heard the beating of her heart. Liliana wrinkled her face from the bright light, not moving from her sleep. She thought about when she fell asleep. The girl had an epiphany. Her eyes widened. She jumped out of bed, calling for Dietrich. Turning to the heroine, Winchester replied, saying that he was here. Dietrich was sitting on the bed next to him. Taking Dietrich's hand, Liliana began to repeat that Winchester was really alive. She was afraid that if she opened her eye, she would see the corpse again. Looking at the girl, the Archduke asked if she had had a nightmare, to which he received a negative answer. Dietrich asked her if she was worried about him, fearing that he would die, and Liliana asked if he remembered that he had refused to be the sixth dead. Dietrich admitted that he said this because he thought that the princess would back down from her idea. The man said that he understood that she chose him because she was sure that he would survive. Looking at Dietrich, Liliana thought about how her anxiety was slowly dissipating. Getting out of bed, Dietrich said that he would go to the Emperor to get official confirmation of the status of the new Grand Duchess for Liliana. Hearing that Liliana should go with him, the Archduke refused, saying that it was better for her not to leave the bedroom. Hearing that the girl who spent her wedding night with her husband would not be able to move so easily, Liliana blushed. Hiding her face in the blanket, the princess said that she understood. Her face was burning with embarrassment. Putting her hand on Dietrich's chest, Liliana asked to be released, to which the man said that it was not the best idea. Saying that perhaps now was not the right time and place, Dietrich, looking at the princess, said that they were now in the bedroom and it was night. Hearing that they were in the room for the newlyweds, the princess mentally asked, looking at Dietrich uncomprehendingly. Snuggling up to Dietrich, the princess asked him not to die that night and to live until morning. Mary whispered at John, saying that she needed to go to Liliana. John stood his ground, not letting the maid into the chambers, saying that they were asleep. Mary swore, saying that she was the princess's personal maid, and it was very urgent, to which John said that the Archduke had ordered no one to disturb them. Opening the door, Liliana asked the knight to let the maid in, explaining that they needed to discuss something. Agreeing, John said that he would be waiting outside the door, calling Liliana the Grand Duchess. Liliana smiled, realizing that despite the rumors about her, she would be recognized as a Grand Duchess. Looking at the girl, Mary apologized for not being able to return earlier, explaining that it had taken her a long time to leave since the Master of the Mage Tower had arrived at the academy. Hearing about the Master of the Tower of Mages, the heroine asked if the maid was talking about Dementius Rickwin. When Liliana said that he was rumored to have refused to leave the Magus Tower, Mary confirmed this, saying that she was surprised too, asking Liliana if anything could have happened. Remembering the medicine, Mary said that her brother needed time to determine because there were many components in it. Looking away, Liliana thought that she didn't really need to find out the ingredients urgently, but it seemed to be important since this medicine had been sent even today. Liliana asked the maid if she could ask her brother to find out about the lineup as soon as possible and let her know. Mary replied that she did. Looking at the maid, Liliana said that she would ask for a message from her brother to be delivered to Winter as soon as it arrived, thinking that it was best not to take the medicine yet. Smiling at Liliana, the maid said she was confident that everything would be fine. Smiling back, the Duchess said that she would hope so, looking at Mary. Mary, remembering Dietrich, asked where he was, to which the princess replied that he had gone to the Emperor. Going to the window, Mary asked when he would be back, to which Liliana said that he would be back tonight. Looking out the window, Liliana thought that she had a lot of free time. Approaching the night Mary called to him, John looked at her when he heard his name. Looking out from behind the door, Mary asked if Liliana could go for a walk, calling her a princess, after which she immediately corrected herself, calling the girl a duchess. Looking at the maid, John said that the Grand Duchess did not need permission if her actions did not contradict the Grand Duke. Upon leaving the chambers, Liliana was surprised to see that there were no soldiers or servants sent by the emperor, which was different from her life in the palace. The heroine realized that these are the differences in the life of a marionette princess and a recognized Grand Duchess. In the garden, the princess met Lord Majestic, who said that he had been preceded. John bowed to greet him, and Majestic greeted the knight in return. Smiling, Majestic greeted Liliana, introducing himself as the head of the Winchester Merchant Company. Smiling, the Duchess invited Majestic to sit next to her, wondering if this was really the infamous Majestic. Sitting down on a nearby bench, the Lord thanked Liliana. The girl asked what brought him to this place. Upon hearing that Majestic was returning home after delivering some things to the Emperor, Liliana asked if he was doing it personally. Majestic confirmed this, mentioning Leon, who was interested in medicinal herbs. The Lord said that the Emperor was a profitable client. As she looked at the man, she thought that the Majestic goods were of high quality, remembering that Leon hated House Winchester, and wondering that the Emperor had agreed to meet with the head of the merchants. Looking at the heroine, Majestic said that he was waiting to meet Liliana. He is grateful that he was able to meet her by chance. Smiling, Liliana said that Dietrich was not in the palace, to which the Lord replied that he knew about it. Extending his hand to the Duchess, Majestic gave her the red stone. The princess asked what it was. The stone did not look like a ruby. Looking at Liliana, Majestic explained that it was a fire stone. The Lord was talking about how winter was much colder than she thought, and the stone would help her survive this cold. Holding the stone in her hands, the princess thanked Majestic as she examined the fire stone. The Lord asked him to take care of Dietrich, calling Liliana her lordship. Pressing the stone to her chest, the girl smiled at the Lord. When Majestic left the Duchess, Liliana asked John what kind of lord was a man. Looking in front of him, the knight said that Majestic belonged to the ancient tribe of Luxeri, known for its long life, and no one knew how old the lord was. John added that Majestic was rumored to have served 2 Grand Dukes. Looking at the retreating figure of Lord Luxury, Liliana thought that he was a mysterious person. In the restaurant, they discussed the fact that Liliana had remarried, calling her a witch. These words were heard by the Archduke, who was sitting in his cloak, and Dietrich looked out of the corner of his eye at the source of these phrases. The Duke was sitting at the same table with 2 young men who were discussing this, one of them suggesting that the princess's current husband would be found dead again. Alex quietly said that rumors were slowly reaching this place, adding that Liliana's 6th husband was alive. Someone said that he had heard that the princess had fun with young men every night to preserve her youth. Calling it shamelessness, the man said that he had heard that the princess had sacrificed her deceased husbands to summon the devil. Listening to the conversation of the company of men, Dietrich noticed that the rumors were short and too malicious. Dietrich and Alex discussed the fact that the rumors seemed to have been spread on purpose, noting that none of these people were afraid of punishment for insulting a member of the imperial family. When Alex heard that someone had said that the Emperor and Empress had indulged the princess too much and she had grown up to be a witch, he said that it was possible that someone from the Emperor's entourage had spread the rumors, to which Dietrich agreed. Saying that he had to get home first, Winchester asked if the horses were ready. Alex explained that poison was mixed into the hay. Dietrich asked if the groom had been interrogated, to which Alex replied that the groom had been found dead. Saying that the Emperor's supporters had begun to act, Dietrich ordered everything to be prepared before morning. Looking around the restaurant, Dietrich thought that it would be difficult to find the source of the rumors about Liliana. The Duke hoped that winter would become Liliana's hideout, and there would be no more dirty rumors. Walking beside John, Alex said that it is quite difficult to serve someone who has never had a romantic relationship. Continuing to walk forward, John said that it did not bother him in any way, saying that although the marriage would be loveless but the duties would be fulfilled, Alex was glad that he would soon serve Dietrich's child. Still calm, John said that it would go by itself. Looking awkwardly at the knight, Alex said that the young couple might have feelings for each other, thinking that John was imitating Winchester. Sitting up in bed with a bruised ankle, Liliana greeted Dietrich and then Mary, looking awkwardly at the Archduke. Seeing the Duchess's injury, Dietrich asked who dared to touch a member of the imperial family. Lowering her head and pursing her lips, the princess hesitated, covering the bruise with a blanket. Kneeling down in front of Liliana, Dietrich took the girl's bruised leg in his hands, telling everyone to leave. Liliana was surprised. Mary looked at the girl with a worried look, asking if she should leave or not. Liliana, embarrassed by Dietrich's actions, looked confidently at the servant. Considering the injury, Dietrich said that he had not been informed about it. Liliana explained that she had asked John not to talk about it. The Archduke, sitting in front of Liliana and holding her leg in his hands, asked why she had not called for a doctor. Smiling, Liliana said that everything was not so bad, looking confidently at her leg. Applying a bandage to the bruise, Dietrich said that a healer even exists to treat such injuries. Smiling, Liliana said that she understood everything. Looking into the eyes of the Archduke, she asked him to stop scolding her. After a little hesitation, Dietrich asked that she really thought that he was scolding her. When Dietrich cut off the bandage, Liliana said that Dietrich looked angry. Winchester said that he had no intention of scolding Liliana, to which the girl responded with understanding. Raising his head, Dietrich asked how the Duchess had injured herself while calmly looking at the princess. Liliana said that she fell. She did not lie, but she did not want to talk about it herself, knowing that the man would soon find out about it himself. Continuing to look at the girl, Dietrich sternly asked if it had anything to do with Leon. Dietrich was surprised when the girl began to laugh. Liliana said that the Archduke was very smart. When the man was done with the bandage, Liliana straightened the hem of her dress, pulling it up. Looking at Dietrich, the girl said that she did not want to bring trouble to Winter in the Winchester house, said that she was afraid of John. The princess knew that Fernanda would not care if Leon insulted her, but the fact that the knight raised his hand against the emperor's assistant would be taken by Fernand as a personal insult. Fingering, Liliana added that she didn't want everyone to think she had seduced Leon. Lowering her gaze, the girl asked what Dietrich thought people would take her side if this matter became known to society. Thinking about it, Liliana realized that despite Leon's guilt, everyone would consider her guilty. She realized that she felt uncomfortable about Winter because of the already large number of rumors about her in a bad way. Cornered in her own thoughts, the girl said that she didn't want the rumors to haunt her. Looking down and thinking about something, Dietrich said that everything was almost ready for a return to Winter. As she watched Dietrich leave, Liliana wondered if the Archduke would leave the case in the future. Turning to the girl, the man said that he had to give it back in the morning, handing the heroine an envelope, asking her to open. Taking the envelope, Liliana agreed, guessing what was inside. Reading the contents of the document, the girl began to cry. She realized that it was just one short sentence. But Liliana finally waited for her freedom. She took the first steps from those who killed her. Clutching the document in her hands, Liliana looked at Dietrich with tears of joy in her eyes, thanking him. Putting on his shirt, Winchester asked her to rest, buttoning her sleeves. Wiping her eyes from tears, Liliana, looking at Dietrich, asked him where he was going. Looking at the girl, the man said that he had one thing to finish, adding that he would come for Liliana when the carriage arrived. Liliana, after thinking, called to Dietrich. The man turned to her, responding. Liliana asked him if she could ask him a favor. Bowing her head, Dietrich asked if she remembered that he had asked her to use the Duchess's power. Smiling, the princess was a little embarrassed. She asked him to find someone for her. When Dietrich asked whom she needed to find, the girl looked confidently at the Archduke, loudly calling out the name of Volt Walter. Thinking about the fact that not all jewelry is made to be touched, Liliana considered herself one of them. Remembering her past life, the girl thought about how she had always been by Leon's side and could not do anything. Comparing herself to a decorative flower, the heroine recalled that Leon had never treated her like a person. When meeting friends, Leon sat Liliana next to her like jewelry, thanks to which she learned a lot about the new disease. Even talking to himself, Leon did not let Liliana go, and that's how she found out about Volta. The girl also had the opportunity to look at the letter in which people asked Leon for help. Looking ahead seriously, Liliana thought about how she needed to steal Leon's future glory and use it against him. Looking at Dietrich, the heroine said that Winter needs Walter. Looking at the Duchess, Winchester listened to her say that she understood Winter's caution. Taking Liliana's hand, Dietrich, interrupting her, said that he would always support her decision. Looking up at Winchester, Liliana was surprised. She thought that he would refuse, because it was about Winter's safety. Looking down, Liliana, starting to think about whether her decision would be wrong, she decided to be careful. Liliana began to explain that Walter was an engineer who understood agriculture. This moment raised a couple of questions in Dietrich. After hearing from the Archduke that Winter's climate was not suitable for agriculture, the girl said that this was another reason to hire him. According to Liliana's memories, Volt will use magic stones to build a greenhouse that can protect plants from all natural phenomena except sunlight. Due to Volt's naivety, Leon took all of Walter's credit for himself, leaving him in the shadows. Looking at the girl, Dietrich thought about how Liliana could find out about this, because according to rumors, she was not interested in anything and was an obedient doll of the Emperor. Saying that he would look for this engineer, Dietrich asked Liliana to go to bed with her hand on her shoulder, which made the girl blush a little. Gathering herself, Liliana left the manor, followed by Mary with a suitcase in her hands. Approaching the Duchess, Dietrich asked about the condition of her ankle, looking at the girl. Smiling, Liliana replied that everything was fine, thanking Winchester. Looking at the smiling Mary with the suitcase in her hands, Dietrich asked if it was all the Duchess's luggage, to which Liliana replied that it would be enough for her. John reached for the suitcase to take it from Mary, while Dietrich told Liliana that he wanted to introduce some people to her. Winchester introduced Alex to her as his assistant. Alex Schmidt. Alex bowed, smiling and greeting her, saying that he could be called just Alex. Dietrich then introduced the guards, John Creebury and Fred Winston. The knights bowed, saying that they would protect them. Smiling, Liliana said that it was a pleasure to meet her and asked to take care of her. After asking if everyone was ready, the company got into the carriage and went to Winter. Looking out of the window, the princess was surprised that the carriage had stopped. She asked if they had arrived. Walking to the carriage, John said that they were still quite far from the city. They planned to make many stops. John added that the princess should go out for a minute. Bolt was standing outside the carriage. Looking out of the carriage, Liliana fell into a stupor. She was very surprised that Walter was standing in front of her. Getting out of the carriage, Liliana, behind whom stood Dietrich, told Volt, behind whom the knights were standing, to sit down. Walter obediently sat down. Looking at Liliana, Bolt listened to her. The girl said that she did not have time to explain, so she would tell her briefly. Looking at Volt confidently, Liliana offered him unlimited resources, and in return, he would work for the Winchester house and go to Winter. Smiling, Liliana talked about how his invention would help Winter and save many people. Walter apologized and said he couldn't go there, his face twisting with regret. The princess was surprised by this answer. She did not understand what was an obstacle for him. Looking at Walter, Liliana asked him to explain the reason for his refusal. Bolt explained that he had a fiancée and she needed him, so he had to stay. Looking up at Dietrich, Liliana asked Volt if he would be happy to take his fiancée with him, to which Winchester nodded approvingly. Smiling, Liliana looked at Walter, saying that Winter needed his talent. Smiling sheepishly, Volt thanked the Duchess, asking if he could discuss it with his fiancée. Liliana agreed, saying that they would provide everything so that Bolt and his fiancée could settle in Winter. Pulling his finger, Walter said that his fiancée had a child and asked if he could go with them. Seeing Volt off, the knight said that he could send an answer through the knight who escorted him. Smiling happily and embarrassedly, Walter thanked Liliana before leaving. Waving her hand, Liliana smiled back, saying that she would wait for an answer. Lowering her hand, the princess thought that Volta's fiancé might not agree. Looking sideways, the heroine began to think that Leon could contact Walter before he gave an answer. Liliana thought about what Leon was doing now. Enraged, Leon walked across the red carpet in the palace, thinking that he would never forgive Winchester. Looking ahead, Leon cursed at Dietrich, the veins in his face bulging and hatred in his eyes. Looking boldly at Leon, Liliana asked him to leave because it was embarrassing for a married girl to date another man late at night. John was following her. Passing by the man, the Duchess said that she hoped that Leon would not come so unexpectedly again. Biting his lip in anger, Leon grabbed the girl's hand, loudly calling her princess. Liliana screamed for him to let go of her, wrenching her hand from Leon's grip. Unable to keep her balance, the girl fell. The knight did not have time to catch the Duchess. Protecting Liliana, John raised his hand to Lian, hitting him in the face with a swing. Lian sat sprawled on the couch and reminisced about the events of that night, thinking about how powerless he looked. Kicking the leg of the table, Lian thought that Dietrich had ordered the knight to hit him. The man had promised himself that he would make the Archduke pay for it. Remembering Liliana's face, Lian couldn't believe that he appeared so stupid in her eyes. Looking forward with hatred, Lian planned to report what had happened to the Emperor tomorrow morning and achieve the beheading of John. The door to the room creaked open, and Dietrich entered the chambers. Lian was surprised. He did not expect the Archduke's visit. As he walked resolutely towards Lian, Winchester looked at him angrily, angered by his disrespectful treatment of Liliana. Continuing to sit on the sofa, Lian screamed, asking what Dietrich allowed himself. Dietrich was mad with anger and asked if he needed to explain anything. Lian trembled. Despite his hatred for the Archduke, he could not answer him. The aura of the Archduke pressed on him. Sitting opposite Lian, Dietrich declared that the absence of one arm would not interfere with him as an assistant to the Emperor. Lian said that Fernand would not allow this. Dietrich would definitely be punished. Crossing his arms over his chest, Winchester asked if the Emperor would take the side of Lian or Winter. Lian winced when he heard Dietrich's offer of a bet. He didn't like it. Lian understood that the Emperor would not stand up to Winter, and Fernand would not help the man. Looking displeased at Lian, the man said that he would allow him to maintain his physical shape. As he began to think about what Dietrich meant, the Archduke's strength gripped Lian's wrist. From the sharp and aching pain in his arm, Lian screamed and fell to his knees, holding his hand. Dietrich warned Lian, saying that if information about what happened to the Duchess leaked out, then Lian would not get off with one wrist. As John left the palace, he said that he was to blame for being too slow. Walking in front of John, Dietrich said that he would deduct 3 months' wages from his salary, and the knight would have to run 300 laps every morning before he would be forgiven. Following the Archduke, John thanked him for his leniency, lowering his gaze. Turning to the knight, Dietrich ordered anyone who dared to harm the Duchess to be killed on the spot. After talking to Volt and resting, the crew continued on to Winter at night. The maid told Liliana that she had better sleep with something soft up now. Wrapping herself in a blanket, Liliana said that Dietrich must have been tired too. Smiling, Mary said that it was as if no one had ever seen the Archduke asleep. After hearing Liliana ask who told her about this, Mary revealed that John had told her about it. The maid asked if the heroine wanted her to tell her something, to which Liliana agreed. Smiling, Liliana listened to the new fashion for pearls and white wolfskins in winter, and Mary also talked about a monster that freezes everything it touches. This magical stone, whose power never wanes, awaits its owner. Approaching the Archduke, John called Dietrich and reported that 9 corpses had been found. Looking at John, Winchester said that there were 13 killers, and Dietrich ordered to find the rest and kill them. Dietrich supplemented his order by saying that they should first cut off their legs. Walking through the forest, Dietrich said that it was better to send scouts ahead. John informed the Archduke that the poison of these people was different from the one sent by the Emperor. When John heard that the assassins had been sent by the Empress, he fell into a stupor. He did not understand what Dietrich was talking about. Remembering the image of the Empress, John asked again, to which the Archduke replied with confirmation. Entering the Empress's chambers, the servant bowed, reporting that there was no answer. Standing with her back to the servant, the Empress ordered the tongue of the servant who was unable to deliver the answer to be cut out. Genevieve was the eldest daughter in the esteemed Hale house, who was raised as a future empress. Everyone expected Genevieve to take this place, so the girl never imagined herself as anything but an empress. But everything changed after she met Dietrich. It was love at first sight. Genevieve asked Molly why Dietrich was not the crown prince she could become his wife. Genevieve was crying in the maid's chest, and the maid could only comfort her. Genevieve asked her father many times to send a marriage proposal to the Winchester household. When Genevieve once again came to her father with her request, the man exhaled languidly, covering his face with his hand. As Genevieve began to speak, her father began to shout that he did not want to hear this, reminding his daughter that she would soon become empress. The man ordered to lock Genevieve in her room and not let her out for a week. Genevieve asked Molly to deliver a letter to Dietrich in which she confessed her love to him so that he would at least know about her feelings. The maid looked at the girl awkwardly. She felt madly sorry for the girl. Asking for Molly's help to send the letter, Genevieve promised in return not to starve and to be obedient as soon as she received an answer. Taking the letters out of the envelope, Dietrich said that they were a love letter. Molly felt lousy as she stood with her head bowed, unaware of the fact that Genevieve had put a marriage proposal in it. Putting a letter in the envelope, Dietrich said that the maid should deliver it to her mistress. Molly thanked him. Clasping her hands, Genevieve said that she knew Molly would come back with an answer. Taking the letter from the maid, Genevieve began to read it, waiting for her consent. The answer did not please the girl. She looked at the paper in disappointment, realizing that her expectations were different from reality. After this incident, Genevieve did not say a word. Her hopes were dashed. Molly was worried about the girl, so she said that the Duke was not interested in anyone, and it was unlikely that this would happen. Saying that only Genevieve would remain in his memory for a long time, Molly hugged the girl. Even when Genevieve moved into the palace, she looked sadly at Dietrich. Walking with another servant, Molly learned that the Archduke had arrived at the palace, thinking that Genevieve would be pleased. Hearing that Winchester had arrived with a marriage proposal, Molly fell into a stupor. When the maid told her that Leon had told her the information and that Dietrich was about to propose to one of the princesses, Molly ran to Genevieve. Molly thought that she should visit the Empress before anyone spilled the beans. Genevieve reflected on the fact that Dietrich hated the imperial family but came to propose to one of the princesses. As she led the maid away, Molly said that she would find out more about everything. Looking at the maid out of the corner of her eye, Genevieve said that it was not necessary. The Empress ordered to contact Ryden, the messenger of the assassination group. Clenching the rose in her fist, the Empress thought about whom Dietrich had brought the proposal. All the princesses were either too strange or too young, in Genevieve's opinion. The Empress decided that if she could not get the Archduke, then no one would get him. Even after the refusal, Genevieve stubbornly continued to send new letters. Dietrich hoped that she would give up when she became Empress, but Genevieve was too stubborn. Every time Winchester arrived at the palace, Genevieve tried to talk to him. But no matter how hard the girl tried to get closer, the Archduke never answered her. Looking at the Duchess's carriage, the knight said that it was good that Liliana did not have a hard time with the trip. Will began to scold Mel for being too familiar with the Duchess. Will said that at first he did not believe that the Archduke had married the princess. Len said that it seemed that the reason for the Archduke's disinterest in girls was his high standards, and Mel supported him, saying that the vassals who tried to marry their daughters to Dietrich were suppressed. Looking at her comrades, the fox asked if this bothered them. The knights looked at the girl. The fox looked up, asking why they were looking at her. She did not understand their incomprehension. Throwing one leg over the other, he told them that he was sure that the rumors about the princess had reached them. Len said that the Duke was not stupid. Mel supported him. Dietrich would not have married her if the rumors were true. Will added that even Liliana's beauty would not have helped her. To Alex, their words were unexpected. He thought they were a bunch of ignorant soldiers. Looking at Dietrich with a smile, Liliana thought about how the road up the mountain was getting bumpier. The Archduke looked at his wife and asked if she was all right, to which he received a positive answer. Liliana lied, and on the next bump she jumped, falling from her seat. The Winchester served as an airbag for the girl. She fell right on him. Looking up at Dietrich, Liliana blushed deeply, realizing that she was lying on him. Hugging Liliana, Winchester looked out the window, and a voice came from asking if everything was okay. The girl, still embarrassed, began to apologize to the man, raising her hands. Looking at Liliana calmly, Dietrich told her that everything was fine, asking if she was okay. Looking at the man, Liliana said that she was fine and asked him to let her go. Looking awkwardly at Winchester, the girl called out to him, not understanding why he was holding her. Holding Liliana close to him, Winchester held her tightly, saying that it would be more comfortable than sitting in the seat. Embarrassed, Liliana looked at the Archduke, wondering what Dietrich wanted to ride in this awkward position. Taking the girl's hand, Dietrich said his name, saying that it would be better if she called him by name. In response, Liliana said that then he should call her by her first name. Looking confidently at the man, the embarrassed girl said that he needed to call her Liliana. Smiling softly, Dietrich confidently called the girl by her name and not by her highness or princess as usual. Getting out of the carriage, Dietrich carried Liliana in his arms. The girl asked when he would let her go. Winchester calmly looked at the girl. Without answering her, the girl had to call him. The man replied that the magic coming from the gate could harm a person's body. As he walked towards the gate, Dietrich said that it would be safer if he carried her in his arms. Dropping to her feet, the heroine thought that she would be able to walk on her own because she had become a Grand Duchess. Putting Liliana on a horse, Dietrich said that because of the snow, he would have to ride on horseback. Liliana asked if there was a barrier here when she realized that the snowflakes were hitting something. As she drew closer, she saw Winter, a snow-covered fortress hiding outside the barrier. Dietrich asked if the girl was dizzy when they passed through the barrier. Looking up at the man, Liliana said that she disagreed, saying that she was only surprised. Looking ahead, the Archduke said that he would order the servants to choose their clothes until the girl got used to the climate. As she rode her horse, Liliana thought that she had never imagined how a horse could gallop on such a road before. Looking at the road, the girls felt that she was cold and her back and legs hurt. Looking at the top of Liliana's head, Dietrich asked if she was okay. Clutching the edge of the saddle with hands trembling from the cold, the girl replied that everything was fine. Noticing this, Dietrich drove his horse faster, already approaching the entrance to Winter. Entering the estate, Dietrich flew past the maids who met him, ordering warm water to be brought. Looking after him, the maids began to whisper when she saw the girl in his arms. After clapping her hands, Kayla sent the maids to their posts, telling them to wait for orders, assuring them that the Duchess was fine. Sitting in front of the bed in which Liliana was lying, Dietrich said that he most likely put too much pressure on her, to which the girl replied, saying that everything was fine because she did not faint. Winchester looked down at the floor. He had nothing to say, so he said nothing. Smiling softly, Liliana called out to Dietrich, looking at him. The man looked up at her. Dietrich said that Liliana expected this when she went to Winter. The girl confirmed his words, saying that it was so, looking confidently at Dietrich. Folding his hands, Winchester said that she would have to get used to the cold herself. Looking at the man, Liliana was interested in his expression, why he was worried about her. There was a clatter of dishes in the room. Someone entered the chamber, saying that he had brought water. The maid bowed and introduced herself as Kayla, the head servant of the Winchester house. Liliana smiled at her, saying that she had been waiting to meet her, thanking Kayla for coming. Pointing to the bell, the maid said that she needed to call it if she needed anything. When Kayla talked about Mary's being made her assistant, Liliana remembered how she had been wished for the death of her maids in a past life. Sitting up in bed, she listened to the maids talk about how tired they were of Leon's mistress. Looking down, Liliana succumbed to memories from the past, distracted from her thoughts by Kayla's voice. The woman smiled at Liliana, saying that everyone was happy to see her in the duchy. Listening to the servant, the Duchess remembered that she thought that she would not feel such a thing again. Smiling, Liliana said that she was pleased again, thinking that she understood that she didn't have to be so honest. Liliana was glad that no one felt contempt or hatred for her. After asking Dietrich if she could get along with everyone, the girl heard a positive answer. Carlyle stood and listened to the words that in a month she would be of age and should be a Grand Duchess. Dietrich warned Liliana that he would be gone for a few days from tomorrow. The girl asked about the reason for his absence, looking calmly at the Archduke. Dietrich explained to her that the heart of Simpson's forest would soon open, and he had to wait for it in the middle of the forest. Liliana had heard about this. She knew that there was a rift that monsters could break through. In the north of the Winter Mountains, there is an ice-free forest consisting only of Simpson trees, and there is a consistent rift in this forest once a year. Dark red monsters with red sand crawl out of this rift, a process similar to a bleeding heart, which is why it was called the Heart of Simpson's Forest. Winchester said that he fully understood Liliana's situation, but he could not ignore this event, to which the girl replied with full understanding. The discovery of Simpson's Forest was one of the reasons why Fernand could not eliminate the Winchesters. The monsters from the Sundering were stronger than ordinary warriors, so only the head of the duchy and his knights could kill them. Thinking that Fernand wanted to know a way to get rid of the monsters without Winchester, Liliana asked if Dietrich had ever been injured, to which he replied in the negative. Liliana said that Dietrich should always return safe and sound. Placing his hand on the girl's arm, Winchester told her that it would be so, calming her down. Mentioning the ice flower of Simpson's forest, whose leaves are transparent and hard, Dietrich said that he would bring it to Liliana. Looking confidently at the girl, Winchester announced that he would return safe and sound with this flower. Liliana, smiling gently, looked at the Archduke and said that she would be waiting. When the maid began to pour wine for Liliana, Dietrich ordered fruit juice to be poured for her. The Duchess was surprised. Looking at him, Liliana said that she could drink wine. After eating a piece of food, the Archduke, closing his eyes, said what he knew, adding that wine could be drunk by anyone who wanted to. After cutting the meat, Liliana froze for a second when Dietrich warned her never to drink again. Looking up at Dietrich, Liliana asked if it had anything to do with the night they drank. Sipping from his glass, Dietrich listened to the girl's question about what she could have done then. Winchester remained silent, saying nothing, and the newlyweds continued to eat. Walking arm in arm with Liliana, Dietrich said that he would inform the butler about the arrangement of the residence, adding that Liliana could change something if she wanted. Letting go of her husband's hand, Liliana refused, saying that Dietrich knew what would happen next. Walking forward, Liliana turned around, reminding her that in 3 years she would be leaving the duchy and not taking anything with her, thanking her for the man who had walked her to her room. After leaving Dietrich, Liliana went to her chambers, after which she went to take a bath. Completely submerged in the water, Liliana relaxed. Mary asked her how she felt. Saying that the stone given by Majestic helped, the girl lowered her head, hoping that she did not seem weak on the first day. The maids, smiling sheepishly, began to tell the princess that they were surprised when she did not faint, because many knights succumbed to it. After listening to them, the Duchess smiled, saying that their words helped her calm down. Liliana asked Mary to send a letter to Viscount Barley's residence, asking her to take care of the belongings left there and to thank her for her help. Exhaling, Liliana fell silent, calling out to Liliana. She thought about something. The maid looked down. She did not know how to tell the girl that after her night departure, everyone was executed. After listening to Mary's account of the incident, Liliana smiled sadly. As she walked down the hallway, Liliana thought about how someday the days of peace would make her relax, but then her enemies would act to prove that she shouldn't. Looking out the window, which was snowing, Liliana thought that she would rule these lands for the next 3 years. As she continued to look at the view outside the window, Liliana remembered that she had promised to free Winter from the Empire. Hoping that she would be able to fulfill her promise, the girl saw Dietrich. Liliana remembered that today he must go with the knights to Simpson's forest. Dietrich turned, noticing that they were looking at him. Looking at Liliana, the man nodded to her. Putting her hand to the glass, Liliana smiled at the Archduke, which made her remember her request to return safe and sound. The girl asked Alex, who was standing behind her, when Dietrich would return. Looking at Liliana, Schmidt said that the heart opens for a week. As she removed her hand from the window, Liliana thought about how much she didn't know, saying that a week was quite a long time. Turning to Alex, Liliana asked what she could do to learn more about Winter without going overboard. Alex suggested that we go to the library. Liliana, agreeing, was surprised at its size when she entered it. Taking the book from the shelf, the Duchess began to read it with a smile on her face. Putting the book on the table, Liliana realized that she didn't understand anything and put her head on the table. Approaching Schmidt, the girl asked if she could borrow a book about Winter that would be easy to read. She was offered a book with old legends about Winter with a gold painting on the spine. Liliana thanked Alex and, taking the book in her hands, began to read it, reading about the Lan Festival. The girl asked what Lan meant. Schmidt explained that the Lan Festival is named after the goddess of fire, the former mistress of the Simpson forest, Lanetta. Schmidt explained that the people of Winter are holding this festival because of the cold weather in the hopes that Lanetta will help them. Enthusiastically reading the book, Liliana remembered everything related to the festival. As they fought, everyone noticed that John had become faster, and the knights began to discuss the fact that he ran every morning. Suddenly, the heart of Simpson's forest abruptly disappeared, which threw the knights into confusion. One of them asked what had influenced this, since there were still 4 days left. They began to discuss whether they could leave, but no one knew for sure. Everything seemed strange. John asked Dietrich what they should do. The Archduke pondered. The area looked like last time after the closing of the heart. Raising his sword above his head, Winchester announced that his heart had closed, the battle was over. After telling everyone to prepare for their return, Dietrich ordered a couple of knights to be left just in case. When asked if Dietrich needed anything else, the man said that he needed an ice flower. As she sat at the table, Kayla thought about the fact that she needed to choose the head servant. Kayla remembered Liliana's request, who said that Alex would not be able to help her when Dietrich returned. Smiling, the maid agreed, adding that for this she needed to find someone to play the role of the main servant. Smiling, Liliana said that she would entrust this to Kayla because she knew better. The maid bowed, thanking the Duchess for her care. Thinking that she needed a faithful and long-serving person for the Winchesters, Kayla went through the maids in her head. Having crossed out one of the maids from this position, Kayla thought that it would be better for Carlisle. As Kayla walked down the stairs, she noticed the other maids talking. When one of the maids said that most nobles are arrogant people and that Liliana is simple, Kayla looks at her with displeasure. While discussing the rumors about Liliana, the maids didn't notice Kayla approaching them. Looking at the maids with displeasure, Kayla said that they should be more careful if they did not want to be fired without a recommendation. Putting her hand to her forehead, Kayla exhaled exhaustedly, thinking about how the young maids still needed training. Looking up, Kayla saw Marilyn. The woman told her that the second floor was not part of her duties. Marilyn smiled, saying that the carpet she had seen in Liliana's chambers was worn out. After asking again, Kayla made sure of Marilyn's words and left, telling her not to leave her seat again. Alex and Liliana were in the library. Liliana had read that only Dietrich could open and close the gate, except when the gate opened once a month for trading. Alex confirmed her words, adding that there was another person. Alex saw Dietrich. Liliana raised her head and looked at the Archduke. Winchester went to see Liliana and Alex, who were surprised by the Archduke's quick return. Approaching the Duchess, Dietrich announced that he had just arrived. When Liliana said that Dietrich had said they would be away for a week, Winchester looked at her out of the corner of his eye. Taking Dietrich's hand, Liliana listened to the fact that her heart had closed earlier. Dietrich asked what she had talked about with Alex. The Duchess told me that she had talked to Schmidt about the gate. Looking at Liliana, Dietrich asked if she needed to open the gate. Smiling, Liliana agreed, saying that people had arrived who needed to get to Winter. Continuing walking, Dietrich said that if it was Volt and his family, he could open the gate for them himself. But the girl refused, saying that she did not want to disturb him. Looking at his wife, Dietrich said that they were married, and he did not understand why Liliana bothered about such trivial requests. The couple looked into each other's eyes when Dietrich mentioned the nature of their relationship. After thinking about it, Liliana agreed, thinking that this was something she couldn't change. After telling Dietrich that she would ask him for help if needed, the couple went to the door of the man's chambers. 10:49. Liliana began to look around, which raised questions in Dietrich. Liliana, smiling, explained that this was her first time being in his room. Looking resolutely at the girl, Dietrich said that they needed to get used to each other. Liliana looked at him awkwardly, wondering why a man was behaving like this when they only had a contract. Handing Liliana the ice flower, Dietrich said that he had brought it as he had promised. Looking at the flower, Liliana mentioned that it looked like a crystal goblet. Dietrich said that he thought that Liliana would like the flower, adding that if you look at the flower in the morning, it will be much more beautiful. Thinking about the bedside table, Liliana said that she knew where to put the flower. Looking awkwardly at the girl, Dietrich asked if he could come to see her later. Laughing, Liliana agreed, wondering if he had told her a couple of minutes ago to get used to each other. Holding the flower in her hands, Liliana smiled at Dietrich, asking what he thought about the fact that the girl would see the flower every morning. Taking another bottle in his hands, Leon thought that he needed a drink. Drinking from his throat, Leon cursed. Knocking, he was informed that Celestia had come to him. Leaning his hands on his knees, Leon hunched over, told her to fall through. Leon threw the bottle, shouting that now was not the time, and the bottle shattered into pieces. Ivy was angered by Celestia's sudden visit. He didn't understand why she had come. Lying down on the sofa, Leon thought that maybe she should have been let in. Covering his eyes with his hand, Leon thought about what he did not want to see her now. Remembering the image of Celestia, Leon thought that she had been too obsessive lately. Still keeping his eyes closed, covering them with his hand, Leon quietly pronounced Liliana's name. Waking up in a sweat, Liliana thought that she had had a nightmare again. Thinking about the fact that the girl has been having nightmares a lot lately, Liliana took a teddy bear in her hands. Entering the Duchess's chambers, Mary asked if Liliana was awake and wished the girl good morning. As Mary walked over to the bed, she said that according to the other maids, it was a surprisingly rare warm day. Looking at Mary, Liliana asked where the Archduke was now. Smiling, the maid said that Dietrich had gone to the training hall before sunrise. Remembering that immediately after his return, Dietrich came to the heroine, Liliana wondered if the Archduke was resting at all. Putting her hands on her lap, Liliana said that she was going to see Dietrich and asked Mary to report to the kitchen that the couple would eat together. Leaving the chambers with the Duchess, Mary, smiling, agreed to fulfill Liliana's request. Smiling at the maids who greeted the girl, Liliana greeted her back, calling Layla and Ray by name. Bowing, the maids informed the Duchess that the trading gates would soon open, telling her to turn to them if she needed anything, for which Liliana thanked Layla and Ray. When Liliana arrived at the training ground, she was surprised that Dietrich was really there. Hiding around the corner, Liliana thought that she had come at the wrong time, and the girls should leave. However, as Liliana began to leave, Fred noticed her and called her, shouting to the entire court. Turning to the call, Liliana saw Dietrich approaching her, who asked what had happened. Embarrassed, Liliana said that everything was fine, saying that she had come to ask if the Archduke would mind having breakfast together. Dietrich asked in surprise if the Duchess had come to ask him personally, and after a pause, he noticed that the weather was fine. Looking at the embarrassed Liliana, Dietrich said that the Duchess had come on time because the knights had decided to take a break. Looking inquiringly at the Archduke, John thought that for the first time the knights would have a break from training. After happily asking Dietrich, Liliana heard that the man confirmed his words. Walking down the corridor, the girl said that the food was delicious. After listening to the Duchess, Dietrich asked if the girl had anything to say, explaining that she had come for a reason. Smiling, Liliana said that she wanted to visit the palace when the trading gates opened. Looking at Liliana, Dietrich asked again. The girl explained that she had made a promise to the emperor. Closing the door to the chambers, Liliana said that she would pass on the information about Winter to Fernando. Despite Dietrich, Liliana revealed that the emperor had asked her to visit the palace every time the gates were opened to relay information, explaining that the request was tantamount to a threat. Taking his wife's hands, the Archduke said that Liliana had promised to release Winter. Looking into the girl's eyes, Dietrich said that he believes that Liliana will not harm the city. After thanking the man for his trust, Liliana asked if Dietrich would go with her, explaining that she wanted to visit other territories, to which the Archduke agreed. Looking at the toys sitting by the bed, the Archduke asked if Liliana had brought them with her, noting that the man had not prepared them. 1098, fixating on the bear with which the Duchess slept, Liliana said that it seemed that the maids had prepared these toys to give to the girl. Taking one of the bears in her hands, the girl told Dietrich that she began to have her own things after the man gave her a brooch. For the first time, Liliana felt what was thought of her to such an extent that she was given a gift. 1101. Hugging the toy, Liliana said that she had never thought that owning something could bring so much joy. After thanking Dietrich for the man leading her to the room, Liliana began to feel dizzy. Unable to resist, Liliana began to fall, but she was caught by a worried Dietrich, saying that he would call a doctor. Liliana waved it off, saying that it has been happening since childhood, after which Dietrich asked if this often happens. After explaining that the girl was born this way, Dietrich asked if she had been checked by a doctor. When Dietrich carefully laid his wife on the bed, Liliana thanked her husband, apologizing for the inconvenience, after which she fell asleep. Waking up again in a sweat from the question of whether everything was okay, Liliana said that she had a nightmare. Worriedly asking if the maid should call a doctor, Mary heard a refusal, after which Liliana said that she would soon feel better. Looking at Liliana worriedly, Mary said that the girl always says that, but according to the maid's observations, the Duchess only gets worse. Asking if it would be strange that the Duchess would call a doctor because of the nightmare, Liliana heard from Mary that she should only care about her own health. Remembering that the girl was not in the palace, Liliana realized that no one here had any ill intentions towards her. When Liliana agreed to call a doctor to be examined, Mary lit up with happiness, running to fulfill the Duchess's request. Hearing from the Duke that Liliana should call a doctor after all, the girl said that she was going to do so, looking at the doctor who bowed to the Duchess. Hearing that the couple was of the same opinion, Liliana smiled, agreeing. Having prescribed Liliana the medicine, the doctor noticed her body as fragile, saying that his medicine would help with dizziness if the drug was taken regularly. When the doctor spoke of one butt, the Duke asked anxiously what was wrong. Bowing, the doctor said that everything was all right, and the Duchess could start taking the medicine and left. As she lay down in bed, Liliana assumed that Dietrich was very busy looking at him. Looking at Liliana, Dietrich said that nothing was more important to him than his wife's health. Embarrassed, Liliana thought that the Archduke had once again made her believe in the reality of what was happening. Taking a lock of the girl's hair in his hands, Dietrich asked Liliana to take the medicine. Agreeing, Liliana thanked Dietrich, but the Archduke said that there was no need to thank him, asking the girl to rest. Looking at the flower made of ice under the glass, Liliana thought that the Archduke cherished this contract marriage. As she lay down in bed, Liliana thought that everything in this place felt warm and sweet. Upon entering Liliana's room, Mary said it was time to take the medicine. Hearing Mary ask about the girl's well-being, Liliana turned her head in her direction, smiling. Liliana said that she felt great, suggesting that it was because of the medication, noting that it was easy to take. Saying that this was not a reason to overexert herself, Mary asked if the maid could visit her brother when the trade gates opened. The Duchess agreed, asking if it had anything to do with the ingredients the girl had asked about earlier. After hearing a positive response, Liliana said that the girls could visit the palace together. Looking at the books, Liliana thought that the girls should bring Volt and Alina to Winter. The Duchess recalled that Alina was close to Celestia, but did not get along with Liliana, suggesting that the girls became close because they liked to discuss jewelry. According to the girl, Leon knows how to find talents. Liliana could not believe that the man managed to attract people who in the future became leaders in the fashion direction, inventing a new technology for polishing stones. While studying the book, Liliana wondered where Lynetta had gone, to which the stranger replied that the goddess of fire was just sleeping. Looking at the girl, the man said that the Duchess did not look surprised. Looking at the stranger with displeasure, Liliana said that she was very surprised by the sudden appearance of the man. Calling the man a man who is free to walk around Winter's residence, Liliana asked who he was. When the man introduced himself as a friend of Dietrich, Liliana said that she would not believe it until the Archduke confirmed it. Looking at the man in displeasure, Liliana heard the stranger call himself Dementius. Looking at the man, the Duchess asked if Dementius was the master of the Mage Tower. Smiling, the man asked if the girl knew him, which made Liliana embarrassed. Librarian Jalal once mentioned a man who opens trade routes. Liliana asked if the man was talking about Dementius. After listening to the girl, the man asked if the Duchess had heard rumors about Dementius. When Liliana thought about it, Dementius said that he had also learned a lot about the girl from rumors. Looking defiantly at the man, Liliana said that the man was a rude person. Looking at the Duchess pitifully, Dementius apologized, explaining that he had been brought up badly. Liliana smiled, saying that she was sympathetic to the rudeness caused by ignorance. Smiling shyly, Dementius thanked the girl, covering the smile with his hand. Snapping his fingers, Dementius said that a gift was waiting for Liliana in the girl's office as an apology, hoping that she would like the present. Dementius disappeared, leaving Liliana alone in the library. When Liliana returned to her room, she saw Walter smiling at the girl. Looking happily at the guy, Liliana admitted that she did not expect to see Volt so soon. As he sat down at the table, Bolt said that he had managed to get there well with the help of a knight that the girl had sent to the boy. Sitting down next to Volt, Liliana said that Volt was not given an easy decision, asking how his fiancé and child were. Saying that they would join as soon as they had sorted out their belongings, Bolt turned Liliana's attention to the plan of the greenhouse the Duchess had been asking about. Looking at the blueprint, Liliana made sure that it was the same greenhouse that Bolt had made for Leon in a previous life. Taking the plan in her hands, the Duchess thanked Walter for his hard work. Hearing a knock on the door, Volt said it must be his wife, and Liliana turned around, allowing her to enter. Looking at the girl, Liliana remembered that she had not heard that Volt had been married in a previous life. Looking towards the door, Liliana wondered what Celestia was doing in Winter.
Like this video. Hit the like button and subscribe for more videos.